We'll explore your own birth experiences and consider how they might be affecting your current life patterns to start your journey towards self-discovery and healing. For more information, visit shannonbtb.com. That's shannonbtb.com.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I want to welcome you to the Real Healing Institute. This is more than a place of healing. It's where the divine meets you exactly where you are. So many people come to me feeling broken, carrying pain, trauma, or beliefs that keep them small. They tell me they've tried everything and nothing has worked. And I always smile gently because I know they're not broken. They're simply waiting to be set free. Through subconscious soul healing, guided by divine truth and universal love, I help you release wounds at the deepest level so you can step into peace, joy, and abundance. My work is rooted in the Christ letters and the understanding that your thoughts, words, and actions carry a vibration powerful enough to transform your life. When you heal at the soul level, you don't just feel better. You awaken to who you truly are. And if you're ready for that transformation, you can book a session with me at therealhealinginstitute.com. Hi, I'm Michelle, creator of the Real Healing Institute. So many clients come to me saying, I've tried everything. Nothing has worked. You're my last resort. When I hear that, I smile because I know I can help them. I tell them, you've come to the right place. You're going to leave feeling better, and they always do. I help people heal themselves at a soul level, resolving the root cause of their struggles through hypnosis regression. Whether it's anxiety, depression, trauma, or something you can't quite name, most of my clients feel a profound shift within just a couple of sessions. These sessions are sacred, compassionate spaces. We don't stop until your issue is resolved. And I'll speak the divinely guided word over you, something unique and powerful for your healing. Many clients describe it as a weight being lifted, like they can breathe deeper.
Welcome to the Becoming You show, where limits get torched and possibility takes the mic. I'm Leah Rowling, human in permanent beta, neurostrategist, mom to 3 amazing humans, married to 1 legendary soul, and your no-fluff permission slip to stop waiting. Every week, we rewire brain patterns, smash hand-me-down mindsets, and dive into the daring, identity-shifting conversations most people dodge. Ready to turn potential into proof? Grab your pen. Your next chapter starts now.
Hello, my beautiful friend. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Leah Rowling, and I am really excited about this conversation. And so I'm going to get right into it because it's one that I think is probably overshared, but misunderstood. And that is this conversation about worthiness. Okay. And I want to start by planting a seed that there is a payoff to staying unworthy. Okay. And I do want you to hear that again, because I don't think we say it loud often enough, right? There is a payoff to staying unworthy. And until we name it, until we look at it honestly, we are going to keep paying for proof we never needed in the first place. We are going to keep gathering evidence. We're going to keep performing. We're going to keep negotiating with our own lives for permission to be fully in them. We are going to keep wondering why nothing we accumulate ever quite fills the hole it was supposed to fill. And today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about worth, not in a way that you've heard it before, right? Not another reminder that you are enough and that you're worthy and that you had nothing to do with it and it's your birthright. No, right? You already know you're supposed to be enough, right? All the books say it. All the podcasts on worthiness say it. That's not the problem. The problem is that somewhere along the way, the simplest truth in the world, right, that you are worthy, became the hardest one to actually live. And I want to know why. I wanted to know why. And that understanding, along with the topic of the month of May in our inner lab, kind of got me thinking, right? The whole month of May, we're talking about courage inside the lab, right? That is the place where we have our membership, where we experiment, the place where we come together and work on our lives, not just in them, okay? We spend the entire month unpacking these topics, these leadership tools, skills, and in this month we're unpacking what courage actually is, right? Not the Instagram version, not the inspirational quote version, the real version, the kind that costs you something. And when I sat down to ask myself, what is the first courage, right? What is the first courage? What is the source code, the foundation, the one that every other courage rests on? Huh? The answer was immediate. Immediate. It's the courage to choose your own worth, right? I want to let that sit. If we know, right, that we're worthy, if you listen to any book, like I said at the very beginning, any podcast, it's something that you claim, they say, right? You just own it. You just declare it, okay? If that was as simple as it is, then why are we not all just walking around feeling worthy? And I think, or what I'm petitioning here on this conversation, is that choice is a courageous one. Because here's what I've learned, and I've learned it the hard way over decades. Okay? You cannot summon the best of who you are if you don't know who you are. And you can't know who you are if you're still outsourcing and delegating and performing your worth for everyone else's approval. So that is where we start this month, right at the root. Okay? And so I want to offer you a phrase today, a concept today, something kind of to turn over in your head, in your hands, kind of for the next, 20 something minutes as we bring this conversation forward, and just see if it fits. Just see if it resonates. Like a lot of my conversations on the show, some might hit and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's what I needed. And others, right? This might be one that might not hit, but man, I think there's a lot of depth in it. And as I was outlining it, I'm like, oh, no. This is not just a one podcast sequence. This most likely will be a monthly sequence, kind of like the one we did last month on confidence. So this is the frame that we're going to work on today. And that is that worth acquisition, okay? The acquiring worth. Okay, I didn't say claim it. Right? Worth acquisition is the price of admission to the biggest life you will ever live. Okay? Worth acquisition. Not worth as an idea, not worth as a vibe, but worth as something that you actively, deliberately, and courageously acquire for yourself, from yourself, by yourself. And I want to be really clear about what I mean by that. Because the word acquisition can kind of sound transactional, like we're earning it, like we have to go out and get it. That's not what I mean. In fact, it's the exact opposite of what I mean. Worth acquisition, the way that I'm using it, is the moment that you stop trying to earn what was already yours. Right? It's the deciding, it's the internal, demanded, non-negotiable ownership of something that was never actually in question, right? And the opposite, right? The thing that most of us have been doing for most of our lives, if you're watching me right now, I'm raising my hand, is worth outsourcing. It's handing the question of whether or not you are enough to whoever happens to be standing closest to you today. A partner, a parent, a boss, a boyfriend that you had in high school, a scale, a comment section, right? One of those paths lead to the biggest life you can possibly live. And the other one leads to a life so small that when you leave it, no one will even notice you're performing a version of yourself the whole time. And I think we need to talk about, I think we need to talk about why so many of us pick the second one. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story. Some of you have heard pieces of this story before. Some of you maybe haven't, but I want to tell it today in a way that I haven't quite told it because I think it matters specifically for what we are talking about. My dad left when I was young. Okay, I was 8, and he didn't come back. And I could tell you that story with a lot of drama and a lot of detail, right? But that's not what this is about. What this is about is what his leaving did to my worth, right? Because I think, right, and I've done the work, right, and I've thought about this for a really long time. I actually think the hole was actually there before he left, right? I think a lot of us are born with maybe a hole-shaped space inside us. And life just hands us the specific grief that fills it in. But when he left and didn't come back, that hole got a name. It got a shape, it got a story. And the story was, if I was enough, if I was worthy, right, he would have stayed. Now, I want you to hear how young I was when I wrote that sentence inside myself, right? I was too young to even know I was writing it. I didn't just sit down one day and decide, right? It just became the water I was swimming in. If I had been enough, he would have stayed. And because he didn't stay, I must not have been enough. And because I must not have been enough, I had to go find a way to become enough. So I did what a lot of us do. I went out and tried to fill that hole. That hole that I assigned to someone else because I never knew it was mine to fill. Okay? And so I tried to fill it with false validation, with insufficient proof, with everything external and nothing internal. Right? I looked for it in my grades. Right? I looked for it in my friendships. I looked for it in being pretty enough, smart enough, talented enough, athletic enough, funny enough, easy enough, agreeable enough, pleasing enough, enough. And I remember it so clearly, okay? I remember being in high school and there was a boy and I really, really liked this boy, right? And my younger self, who again was just doing her best with the equation that she had written before that she knew she was doing it, she made me liking that boy and that boy not reciprocating, liking me back, something. I made it mean something. I made it mean something when the boy that I liked one of my good friends. Right? She made it mean, see, if I was prettier, more like her, he would have chosen me. If I had been smarter, right, he would have chosen me. If I had been more talented, more athletic, you get what I'm saying, more anything. If I had just been more, anything not like me, he would have chosen me. And if he had chosen me, then maybe I could prove to myself that I was worthy enough, and then maybe my dad would come back, right? If my dad came back into my life, then I would now have this permission that I was waiting for to live my life. And you guys, I actually know how this sounds, okay? To say kind of those two things in the same sentence. A boy in high school and a father who left. But that is how the young mind works. It is. It takes one wound and it finds every other wound that looks similar and stitches them together in a theory about you. in a theory about me. And the theory was I wasn't enough, right? And if I could just be more, everything would be fixed. So I spent decades being more, doing more, right? In moments, I sensed that I was too big, so I played small. I sensed I was insufficient, so I played bigger. Either way, I wasn't me. I was whatever the room needed me to be. I met the demands of almost every relationship in my life, and I did it well. You guys, I was very, very good at it. I was successful at it. I got a lot of approval for it, right? Being the good one, being the nice one, being the pleasing one. But there was just one tiny problem. And I've shared this on the show before, right? I had no idea who I was. No idea. Because every version of myself had been built to answer a question someone else was asking me to be. Someone else requesting me to be something that would benefit their comfort. And when you build yourself entirely out of answers to other people's, right, requests, questions, you look up one day and you realize that you don't actually know what the sound of your own voice is when no one else is in the room. You have no clue who you actually are and what matters to you. And that right there is the cost of outsourced worth. That is what we pay. And so this is where it gets really interesting, because at some point, and maybe you've had this moment, maybe you're in it right now, maybe it's still coming, at some point you wake up. You look at your life that you've performed your way into, right? You look at the relationships, the roles, the wins, the proof, the quiet voice inside you, right? That asks a question that you've probably been outrunning and for sure most likely outsourcing for years. And the question is, who are you? And is any of this actually yours? Was any of it actually created by the most honest version of yourself? And once you ask that question, you can't unask it. You've kind of pulled that thread. And this is the moment, if you've ever done this work on yourself, if you've read the books, if you've sat with the coaches, if you've journaled, if you've prayed, you already know the answer that everyone gives you at that moment. You know it. The answer is you're worthy. You always were. It's your birthright, right? You had nothing to do with it. You don't have to earn it. You just decide, you just claim it, you just believe it. And everything in that answer is true. And I mean it. Every single word of it is true. So then, as I mentioned at the beginning, I just have to ask the question that I cannot stop asking. If it really is just a decision, if it really just truly is our birthright, then why? Why is it so hard for us just to decide, just to declare it, to like line in the sand? Why is it so hard to just believe that we're worthy with or without proof? Why is it? Why do then we resist the simplest sentence in the world? And I've thought about this a lot. I've read about it. I've read the experts. I've read Jamie Kern-Lima's. I've read Brene Brown. I've read all the books that you have probably read, and they are all pointing to the same truth from different angles, right? Which is that worthiness is not a feeling that you chase, it's a truth that you claim. But none of that answers why it's so hard. And I think I landed on something as I was kind of bringing this conversation to light, and as I was working in on the Courage Masterclass for this month, that I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to say it carefully, right? Because it might sound harsh. You might want to reject it, and I get it. But I promise you, it's the most compassionate thing that I know how to say. And that is, I don't believe that we stay unworthy because we don't know that we're worthy. I'm going to say that again. I don't believe that we continue to be confused by our worth because we don't know we're worthy. I think we do. I think we stay unworthy because there is a payoff. There is a payoff. There is a payoff to staying unworthy. There is a payoff to use that to excuse ourselves out of our potential. right? Because if we're performing, if we are being anything other than who we are, then if somebody rejects us, they're not even really rejecting us. I want you to let that land. If I'm waiting for my father to come back into my life to give me permission to live it, then that is a payoff. I can just blame him for the small life that I have, that I had. Okay. And that's the disruption of this entire episode. That's the thing that I want you to take with you today. Okay. The reason we don't talk about it is because naming it makes us responsible for it. Okay. And we would much rather, and I say this, oh my gosh, with so much love, we'd much rather be victims of our own unworthiness than the author of it. Right? Because if we're the author of it, well, then we could also be the author of something else. And then we would have to take massive ownership, one, for the life that we have right now, built by the payoff that we got from staying unworthy, and or two, the author of who we get to become in the authorship of that worthiness. So let's name the payoffs, right? Because I think once you see yours, like I kind of saw mine, right? Once you actually see it on the page, you cannot keep pretending you're just a passive recipient of low self-worth, right? You get to start to see that you're an active participant in it. And that's the doorway. So let's talk about payoff number one, okay? Payoff number one, as long as we are still acquiring proof, I never have to risk the bigger life, because the bigger life requires me to show up as if I'm already worthy of it. And I'm not ready to be that visible yet. So I'll just keep gathering. I'll just keep achieving, right? For me, it was, I'll just get one more certification, one more academic certification in the field of coaching, in the field of neuroscience, in one more client, right? One more pound off, one more thing, and then I'll be ready, right? And then, of course, I'm never ready, because the proof isn't the point. The delay is the point. The delay is the point. Payoff number two. So payoff number one is that as long as I'm still acquiring proof, I never have to put myself out there to meet my potential and to possibly be rejected by others. Okay, that's a pretty good reason, if I do say so myself. Okay, payoff number two, as long, and I think I alluded to this, as long as I'm performing, I really can't be rejected, because it's the performance being rejected, not me, right? And that is a very clever thing, right? The performing self figured out. I know mine was very clever, right? If they don't love me, right? They don't love the character I'm playing, then the real me is still safe, still hidden, still unknown, and still unmet. That's payoff number two. And I see it a lot in my coaching clients, right? Kind of afraid to be vulnerable and honest about who they really are. That's a big one. Payoff number three, right? I think that, and this is not as well vetted out in my mind, but at least for me, unworthiness is a hiding place, dressed up as, I'll just call it humility, right? We've made smallness a virtue. We've made self-deprecation a personality, right? We have made it socially acceptable, even attractive, right, to be a woman who doesn't take up too much room. And if you're like me, and you came up in a family where being chosen was conditional, small felt safer than seen. Okay? I'll leave you with one more, just because I think it's an important one, and it might be the deepest one. So I want you to stay with me. As long as I believe I am unworthy, I just get to postpone the conversation with myself about what I would do if I knew I was worthy. I get to postpone the dream. I get to postpone the ask. I get to postpone the boundary, the leap, the truth, the goodbye, the hello. I get to postpone my own life. And that postponement feels like safety, but it's not safety. It's a slow, quiet, decades long negotiation with the version of you that was always supposed to show up. Always supposed to show up. So I don't believe that unworthiness I don't believe it's a condition that we suffer from. I think it's a strategy that we are using. And that's a strategy that we're using in order to keep our lives smaller than they could be, to keep you unseen, unmet, unheard, right? And the moment that we see it as a strategy, we can choose a different one. And so this is where we get to come back to courage, because this whole month in Inner Lab, we're talking about courage. And this is the first courage. This is the source code. Okay? The courage to claim your worth is not a dramatic, made for movies kind of courage. It is quieter than that, and also harder than that. It's the courage to allow people to be uncomfortable with your fullness. It is the courage to allow other people to be disappointed when you stop performing the version of you that they had gotten really comfortable with. Okay? It's the courage to own, and this one is the hard one. It is the courage to own that you were not forthcoming, that you were pretending, that you were performing, that in some small ways you were even lying. Not out of malice, but out of survival, but still. And owning that is brave, because the ego does not want to admit the winning strategy was also a small betrayal of yourself. And it was. And the moment that you can say that without collapsing into shame is the moment that you can say, yes, yes, I was performing and I'm all done. And when you can do that, everything in your life shifts, right? To interrupt that winning pattern, the pattern of using unworthiness as the strategy for your life requires bravery, right? Because you're not walking away from a broken thing. You were walking away from the thing that was keeping you alive. And now you are deciding that alive is not the same thing as living, right? So here's what I want to leave you with today. 3 things, okay? Worth is not acquired by accumulation, right? The work, this one's the biggest one, you guys. The work is not to become worthy. The work is to stop performing unworthiness. Those are 2 completely different jobs. One, right? One of them is infinite and exhausting and will never be finished. That is the work of becoming worthy. That's exhausting. It's infinite. Okay, that's not what I'm asking you to do. What I'm asking you to do today is to stop performing unworthiness. That can be done today. And the second is a decision, right? I want you to make it right now with me for the next 24 hours. I'm not asking you to believe you're worthy forever. I'm just asking you for 24 hours, you're going to live as if the question of your worth is already settled. And I want you to see the strategic pattern in your choosing unworthiness for your life. What does that look like? And the last one is practice. Practice. Where in my life am I still gathering proof of my worth? Where am I still outsourcing my worth? And what would I do differently today if I knew that proof was not required? Where in my life am I using unworthiness as an excuse to live a bigger life? Where am I using it as a strategy? Okay. So those are my 3 invitations for you in this podcast. The other one is come back next week. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into this idea of worth acquisition, not in becoming worthy, but in the cease of performing unworthiness. And the other one is if you're not in our membership, in the show notes, there's a link. Come with us inside the lab. Come with us inside the lab so that you can begin to see and witness just how unworthiness has played out as a strategic byproduct of the life that you're living. And in the lab, you can experiment with a completely different strategy. That's what we're talking about in the lab this month. And I hope you will join us in there. And if not, I'll see you in the next conversation. Have a beautiful one, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. If this episode cracked something open, good. Let it. And then head to leahrollingcoaching.com and grab the tools to rewire the story and reclaim your future. It is yours. And then share this with someone who's still waiting to be chosen, still waiting for permission, and remind them they don't need a breakthrough, that they are the breakthrough. Until next time, my beautiful friends, invest in you and keep becoming.